Welcome back to Go Gaddis Real Estate Radio right here on AM 920, The Answer. My name is Cleve Gaddis, and I'm here to make real estate clear and simple and worry-free. If you want to connect with us, it's simple. Go to GoGaddisRadio.com. That's GOGADDIS radio.com. You can ask questions. You can make comments. You can push back or challenge things we say. You can share your ideas with us. If you have something that you want us to share with the rest of the listeners, you can ask us to do some research on your neighborhood and feature your neighborhood in our neighborhood spotlight, just like who is this week. In this week's show, it's the Lakes at Sugarloaf, which is in Duluth. You can ask us to do that, and we would love to. You can also subscribe to our podcast and to our YouTube channel. In this segment, can a condominium association become a homeowners association, and what the heck is the difference anyway? Who cares what they are? We have our special expert advisor, Michael Crew, who's the CEO of Homeowner Management Services, with us. Michael, it's so good to see you.
It's very good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I have a question for you. In the state of Georgia, what different types of community associations are there? It's my understanding there's an HOA, then there's a POA, which are very similar, but they have different laws behind them, I think. And then there are condominium associations. Have I covered everything that is possible in the state of Georgia?
Yes, you have.
Okay.
There's a specific state law for condominiums.
Okay.
There's a specific state law for property owners associations. And then there are regular homeowners associations, which were the predecessor of property owners associations. There were actually homeowners associations for many, many years. And then the state created a new law to cover that type of ownership, and they made it voluntary for those associations to become property owners associations. So
if they wanted to.
There's far more HOAs than there are POAs.
Okay, so let's talk about this. I am a developer, and I'm going to build a new subdivision, and I want to create a mandatory homeowners association, and I want to do it because the municipality where I'm trying to get the zoning approval says, hey, we're not really interested in you building something unless you put another governing body in there to help us kind of keep everybody in line. What's the process? How do I do that as the developer? Do I write some paperwork and just give it to everybody when they buy? Do I record stuff at the courthouse? How does it happen?
Yep, both of the above, all of the above.
Okay.
So the one important thing that you hit on is most county zoning organizations are in the metro area, because zoning comes from the county.
That's right.
Okay. They are now requiring developers to create a homeowners association.
Yep.
Okay. Distinct from a condominium. That's kind of a different animal.
A mandatory homeowners association in most cases.
A mandatory homeowners association.
Right.
And they're doing that because, as you said, they want to keep things in order, but they also want to be able to transfer some responsibilities onto the homeowners association, principally stormwater management. That's a big thing in the counties, is to get that burden off of their municipal services and put it on somebody local. So. So that's the thing they're doing. How does that happen? So there's a few different players when a neighborhood's created. There's the developer. That's the guy that buys the land,
right,
and gets the streets and the sewers and makes arrangements for the power company, does all those things.
Right.
Okay? That's the developer. Okay. Then there's an entity called the declarant, and they're the ones that create the legal structure for a homeowners association.
Okay.
The declarant. And they draw up covenants, or a declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions,
okay,
or they go by different names, but the covenants.
Right.
They draw those up, okay, and they include those in their zoning packages with the county, so the county sees what they're getting, right? And then when the county says, yeah, you can do this, and they approve the structure of the lots or the future subdivision of the lots anyway.
Right.
Okay. The declarant takes that document and records it at the county courthouse.
Okay.
Okay.
Just like you would with a real estate transfer deed, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, the purpose of recording the covenants is so they can be linked together, included in the chain of title, linked together with the deed. So then when a home is actually sold, there's a reference in the deed that says this deed is subject to these covenants which were recorded in this plat book on this date.
Yep, on this page number. Interesting.
Right. And so there's they're in the chain of title, and they're now a part of the record of ownership. The covenants are now part of ownership.
Got it. Many of the homeowners associations that were created, let's say in the 70s, they weren't mandatory. And is that am I correct in that belief?
Yes, okay. You are correct.
So they weren't mandatory. It's kind of a voluntary thing. And I know we grew up in a subdivision in Peachtree Corners, and it was a voluntary HOA. And I think most people joined because we had front entrances that need to be taken care of and swimming pools and stuff like that. So did Georgia pass a law that allowed the associations to then become mandatory? Because I know most of the HOAs I see now are all mandatory. And then I want to go on and discuss what's the difference in an HOA and a POA, because I think there is a significant difference, even though they're also very, very similar.
There are significant differences between HOAs and POAs. The part about voluntary associations was that the developers at that point didn't want to create any obstructions to ownership, and some people didn't want to belong to a homeowner. They didn't want to be subject to the rules. But the bigger problem was that the original HOAs were created so that there would be a mechanism to provide funding for the community pool. Mm-hmm. That was the big driver, was the community pool.
Right.
And what they found out was, it took a few years for this to soak in, but what they found out was that in a neighborhood, when people originally moved in, people with kids mostly would join the HOA and be willing to pay for their pool privileges.
Right.
And the people that weren't going to use the pool didn't join.
Right.
And so you had this constant tug of war about how do we pay for the pool? How do we have enough money for the pool? So the other thing they discovered is, I don't know how many trick-or-treaters you had recently.
Yeah.
Okay? But I had like 30 this year.
Okay.
Last year I had 7.
Okay.
Nobody showed up. And so the thing that's happened in my community is that the younger kids are gone. They've grown up, they're married, they've gone away to college.
Yep.
And so parents stopped paying for the pool. They dropped their membership.
Yep.
And pretty soon you had a community of maybe 200 homes, and you only had 30 homes that belonged to the pool. And
impossible to support it.
Yeah, that's a couple $1,000s a year for each house now, instead of maybe $300 a year. So that's where the problem originated, and builders, developers got smart and said, this isn't working.
Yep.
Okay. And then they also had the problem of the community that I lived in the 1970s had a voluntary membership, and virtually nobody belonged.
Really?
And our entrance was an embarrassment.
Oh, no.
It looked awful. And when it was taken care of, it was only because the 2 homes that lived at the front of the neighborhood went out and did it themselves.
They had enough.
Yeah,
they're like, that's it.
I got to clean this up. It's in my front yard.
I'm not going to look at this.
So that's why they're mandatory now, because they got smart about it.
That makes sense.
And you'll also see that in golf course communities now.
Yes.
Used to be belonging to the golf course. The golf club was voluntary, and now they have a social membership. Generally, you might not play golf, but you're going to pay for the clubhouse and the facility,
because they need the money long term. Okay,
they need the money. It's all about the money.
HOA is different than a POA. HOA stands for Homeowners Association. POA stands for Property Owners Association. Talk to us just a little bit. We've got about 3 minutes left in this segment. Talk to us just a little bit about how they're different, and then when we come back, we'll talk about condo associations, and then the ultimate test of how do we turn a condo association into a homeowners association.
Okay. Well, I'm going to back up just a little bit and step into the next segment.
Okay.
There's been a condominium law for a long time because the ownership is so much more complicated.
Right.
The common ownership. So there was this condominium law, and then there were all of these various state laws that applied to homeowners associations.
Right.
Someone in the legislature got this idea that we needed to have a more structured homeowners association regimen. So they took the condominium law and they went through it, and every place where it said condominium, they scratched it out and wrote in homeowner. Okay. And so literally the Property Owners Association law is the condominium law, and it's been revised. The things that weren't applicable were stricken out, and they changed a little bit of the wording. The thing that's really fundamentally different is in a condominium, the builder pays for every unit in the condominium from day one,
Right.
whether it's sold or not.
Right.
And that's because condominiums are in a high-rise building, can't get rid of the cost.
Right.
Everybody has to pay.
Right.
So even the empty units pay, and that's the builder.
Right.
In a homeowners association, an empty lot doesn't cost anything.
Right.
And so the developers said, we don't want to pay for empty lots, so they made an exclusion in the property owners law that said that the developer did not have to subject their neighborhood to the POA.
Right.
So a lot of neighborhoods, ones that were being newly built, did not subscribe to the POA. And the ones that were already in existence, the homeowners association that are already in existence, okay, the law didn't apply to them. They did not make it retroactive. The legislature did not make it retroactive.
Got it. Real quickly, we've got about 40 seconds left. If somebody wanted to reach you to discuss managing their HOA or their POA or their condo association, how would they reach you?
The easiest thing for them is to go to our website, www.hms-inc.net, okay, and ask for a proposal. Okay,
Perfect.
A little form to fill out, collects the information we need, and it also meets the requirement that part of the state law, which is the client has to ask for a proposal. We can't just
You can't just okay, got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
If you're interested in changing community management groups, go to hms-inc.net. Is that right? hms-inc.net. Will you stick with us another segment? We've got a lot more
Certainly.
to cover. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're going to keep discussing the practical side. You know, what's the difference in homeowners associations and property owners associations and condo associations? And can you change from one to the other? I think that's going to be a tall order. Stick with us. We'll be back.